A couple days ago, The Guardian published an opinion piece by an anonymous game developer. Video games have a diversity problem that runs deeper than race or gender. They say, blockbuster releases are homogenizing around a narrow range of experiences, and it could be driving creative people out of the industry. If you go read the article, you'll see that their point is essentially that, no matter how much representation you have, it doesn't matter if the genres are masculine. They seem to think there are too many shooters and too many sports games. They say, the thing is, I don't really care if you put a female avatar into Assassin's Creed. You can put as many women as you like into FIFA, or make the entire cast of Gears of War tough action chicks. I still won't play those games. I don't care about climbing a tower to reveal more of the kill map. I don't care about shooting people. I don't care about winning the World Cup. You can't put a pink bow on a tank and assume different audiences are going to flock to it because you gave them some token aesthetic validation. Adding representational diversity to those kinds of games is important, but how often do we consider diversity of genre? Diversity of experience. How often do I consider the lack of diversity of experience in games? You got me. Pretty much never. Because while I'm sitting here at my computer, just a few clicks away is a ridiculous variety of games, even for free. In fact, especially for free, there is some weird shit out there that you can just get. They're talking about but from my perspective, this issue isn't there. A game's budget does not matter to me. I've said before, I do not really play AAA games. But of course, it's only fair that we try to understand their perspective. They are someone who develops games. Why is this an issue for them? Mainstream, big-budget video games have been shifting towards a mechanical singularity for years. And it's really time to ask if that's something that might be keeping people away too. I'm still waiting for an excuse to upgrade to PlayStation 4 or Xbox One myself, but I'm not excited by the prospect of more detailed chest hair physics in what are basically the same games we had last gen. And what if I just never get that excuse? I'll have indie games, sure, and Nintendo will always be there for me, but nowadays, AAA titles are just something other people play. The kinds of games that I enjoy have been pushed out of that space, and I'm being pushed out with them. Wait 1 second, this isn't from the perspective of a developer. From this viewpoint, what does it matter if you're playing AAA or indie? In fact, I consider it a blessing that my taste tends to line up more with indie games, because I spend less fucking money for games I like more. Let's take an example. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, I think I spent £10 on that, and I've enjoyed it more than pretty much any game more expensive than that I can think of. And when I imagine that as being made by some huge company with tons and tons of employees, multi-million-dollar budget, I don't imagine it actually being as good. It would be something different, and it would be a hell of a lot more expensive. I mean, earlier, a game they mentioned was FIFA. That's made by EA. Imagine a world in which EA made The Binding of Isaac and just shudder in horror. And let's just mention something else they said again. AAA titles are just something other people play. The kinds of games that I enjoy have been pushed out of that space, and I'm being pushed out with them. It is terrible. You rent an apartment in the AAA district, and if you fail to get the latest Call of Duty, you get evicted. Anyway, for real now, we're going to go on to what they say the issues are for game developers. We all like different things. That's not about gender. That's about being human. Narrative and character diversity are both important. Representation is a fundamental way of saying, you are welcome. Games are for you, but then so is gameplay variety. The lack of genre diversity doesn't just affect players, it affects employees within the industry, especially women, who are more likely to have grown up enjoying slightly different games, the ones that now don't count as games, the ones outside of the epic shooter-killer wavelength. With fewer and fewer of these titles being made by big studios, eventually the mainstream industry will feel like it's just not a place for people who aren't as interested in heavy weaponry. Ignoring the exact accuracy of this idea, one teeny tiny question does pop into my head, presuming they're correct. So what? If you want to guarantee that you make money, if you are in it for the cash and you want to pursue that, it is very unlikely you're going to be able to make exactly what you want. They do kind of address that. They say that people not interested in what AAA is doing can get a job there and then fulfill their creative desire elsewhere, but that it's so hard for a creative person to find the passion to keep going on if they're not inspired by what a medium creates. I just cannot take that shit seriously. Only recently, in the past year or two, have I managed to make my income on guitar lessons, and that is fantastic. That's not my passion. but it is related to my passion at the very least. Prior to that, I had done just shit manual labor in warehouses, and I spent about a year as a live-in carer for people with spinal injuries. And I'm sure that most of the people listening to this do not just pursue their creative passion and make a living on it. So I think that this complaining about an extreme luxury being hard to attain for these poor creatives might be grating on you a bit too. Luckily though, we may stop hearing about it soon. According to this article, there is a solution coming just around the corner. The light at the end of the tunnel, of course, is that right now the industry is in a pretty good place for people setting up their own thing. A new generation of successful indie developers is currently moving into the mid-sized AA space that so many more experimental companies occupied throughout the 90s, and they're hiring. These endeavors take a huge amount of dedication and persistence, as well as a range of business and promotional skills. It's a densely crowded marketplace out there. That's not for everyone. But if the people strong enough to do it can build a path forwards, or even encourage the mainstream industry to start rediscovering lost genres, mechanics, and concepts, it's not only a worthwhile endeavor, it's a true hope for the future. Okay, I need your help. Can you just tell me if I've read this correctly? AAA studios are not making the kind of games certain people want to work on. The light at the end of the tunnel is that you can just do it your fucking self. And then maybe, if you push ahead and are successful, AAA will rip you off. Really inspiring. Okay, so maybe that's not exactly what they're saying, but I think that's realistic. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the idea of AAA to dump a ton of money into a game's development and marketing and get even more back? If AAA starts running with one of these so-called lost ideas, they're going to be doing it because it's going to make money, and on top of that, in whatever particular way is going to make money. And if it really takes off, won't all the other studios start copying? If you think any genre is overrepresented in mainstream gaming, won't this just become one of those? And if it doesn't that just mean it doesn't really make cash, and so will drop out again? Overall, I may be completely wrong about this, but in terms of what I like or what I respect, I don't really see indie as below AAA, though I do understand the idea that one is far more secure than the other. However, I do think that what's being portrayed as an issue, people who want to make certain kinds of games having difficulty finding big companies that are making them, is really just them needing to come to terms with what all creative people really need to come to terms with. What you have a passion for and what sells are very unlikely to line up, at least not perfectly. If it does line up, great, you are extremely lucky. For the rest of us though, that passion doesn't mean we deserve to make money doing what we love. It doesn't even mean we deserve recognition for it, no matter how good it may be. It does not mean that the people who do have all that need to accommodate us. What passion means to me, and to most of the other creative types I know, is that none of that matters, because we couldn't stop if we tried. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.